Okay, people, here we go. As expected, the father of the vax is Epstein's bestie. That's right, Trump and Epstein were like Bonnie and Clyde for trafficking children. Trump's name is in the files, of course, which explains why he lost it completely on a reporter for simply asking about it. Now we know. And that's also why the distractions right now are so over the top. I mean, we are literally one news cycle away from Project Bluebeam, okay? I'm not even joking either. Either a staged alien invasion is incoming, or a false flag so massive it'll make 9/11 look like the beta test for the real event. Let's see how the trust the plan agenda is going. $5 trillion debt increase, no Epstein files or arrests, more foreign intervention, no DOGE legislation, Patriot Act 2.0, more weapons to Ukraine, new mRNA shots designed by AI, what we've all been asking for. Bill Gates is now spraying chemicals on organic food as well. Yeah, trust the plan, guys. And that's right, and we can at least throw 100 more in there, fighting wars on behalf of Israel, threatening sanctions if Israel dares to convict Netanyahu, covering for pedophiles too. I mean, it never ends. The Middle East right now is on fire, and it's not by accident. It's all part of the plan. Syria wasn't just some random war zone, it was the test run. They wanted to see how much chaos they could cook up before people noticed the borders were shifting. Now we're in phase 2. Break the region apart, wipe out anyone in the way, and clear the path for the greater Israel dream they've been planning for a while now, from the Nile to the Euphrates. And guess who's behind the wheel? The CIA, Israel's Air Force, Mossad, all in the Pentagon playbooks, okay? It's not a theory either. It's all out there in their own papers. And proving even Trump is in on the act. Yeah, the same Trump who rants about illegals and swears, foreign cultures can't assimilate. But yet he's on record saying the man that is leading Syria was head of some pretty tough organizations. He's pretty tough, he said. He is a good guy. Can you believe that? Let's be clear, the organizations he's talking about are the CIA and Mossad, created ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So the America First guy is publicly praising an Islamist butcher because that butcher works for Tel Aviv. It makes sense if you know that those who rule over these nations are demonic scumbags that want Christians dead. In the UK, they'll throw a Christian in prison if they even criticize the insane immigration policies that are destroying Britain, and at the same time, the UK is funding the genocide of Christians in the Middle East. So now, not only do they want to destroy Christianity in the West, but also in the East. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy just flew to Damascus to kiss the ring of Syria's new Al-Qaeda-backed puppet president and handed over 94.5 million euros in aid. First British minister visit in 14 years. And boom, full diplomatic ties restored because they love genocidal terrorists. I mean, who could have thought? Don't worry though, they say it's for education, in quotes, and recovery. Right. Just like they did in Libya and Iraq, where recovery means a decade of bombings, organ harvesting, and a total bloodbath. And days before this, Trump signs an executive order lifting U.S. sanctions. Britain unfroze Syrian bank assets in March. The regime change op is officially a done deal. Assad's out, which is what they wanted for decades. Jihadis are in, and the West is writing checks to make sure Christians get genocided in the Middle East without any resistance. This was never about just Syria. This was about erasing Syria. And they're redrawing the whole map to fit this Zionist fantasy they have. Israeli borders up to Turkey. No more Arab resistance. Gaddafi called it years ago, actually. He said their plan is to remove Lebanon and Syria so that the borders of so-called Israel are with Turkey rather than the Arab countries. You will see this achieved, if not in our era, then in our children's era. Syria will become 5 small states. And now, after installing an ISIS puppet president, the Druze and Christians are getting slaughtered while Israel swoops in like a Hollywood superhero. It's the same playbook of Afghanistan and Iraq, pretending to rescue the same communities they knew would be butchered once they helped install a jihadist to run the country. They knew this would happen, they did it anyway, and you can't blame incompetence. They had multiple examples that this would happen, and they did it anyway. The same guy who weirdly allowed Israel to use Syrian airspace to bomb Iran, and of course they roll out Bridget Gabriel on Fox News to rattle the MAGA crowd. She said the Islamic State in Syria is a problem that must be monitored. And bam, now they're cheering for another Save the Druze mission, which just so happens to give Israel the perfect excuse to swoop in and play superhero. Yeah, that doesn't sound suspicious at all. The same people that blew up the only Catholic church in Gaza, killing 3 civilians and injuring 9, including the priest, is now out to save the Christians, apparently. Yeah, and now get this. Israel just investigated itself again and found it did absolutely nothing wrong. Yeah, that's right. After blowing up the church, the IDF says it was just a deviation of munitions, end quote. Which is a weird way to say, oops, we bombed a church full of Christians hiding from a war we started. The military statement didn't even bother to mention the deaths. No aid given to the families, just some damage and a vague statement of regret. The Vatican's own patriarch had to learn about this from the media and even said no one in the region believes this was an accident, okay? But I guess it's fine though, because Israel signed its own permission slip. That's all it takes. Western media just moves on and barely covers it. Yeah, we know who owns the damn media too, okay? Doesn't matter what person is in office. You don't find it weird that both left and right puppets act in accordance with a specific agenda? Doesn't matter who's in office, okay? The agenda stays the same. In 2013, Obama greenlit the CIA's Timber Sycamore program, funneling weapons and cash straight to jihadist factions in Syria. Not, oops, they turned extremists later. No, they were already Islamic extremists. The US ran it through Saudi, Qatar, Jordan, and Turkey, who all had ties to radical Sunni networks. Anti-tank missiles, rifles, trucks handed out like candy. Washington knew these weren't moderate rebels in Syria. These were al-Qaeda affiliates, Salafist jihadi militias, and sectarian death squads. Even Jordanian intel was skimming off US shipments and reselling them. And many of the fighters Mossad and the CIA trained turned into ISIS. Wow, what a coincidence. This wasn't incompetence, people. This was the plan. The State Department knew exactly where the funding was going. Hillary Clinton was getting briefed that Saudi and Qatari networks were backing the same radical Sunni militias the US claimed to be fighting. Hell, she even signed off on cables saying Saudi donors were the biggest funders of Sunni terrorism worldwide. But nobody cared, because removing Assad was the only goal. Their main objective was to destabilize the region. Nothing else mattered. Even US military intelligence saw it coming. A 2012 Defense Intelligence Agency report basically said, if we keep backing these groups alongside Turkey and the Gulf states, it's going to lead to a Salafist extremist stronghold in eastern Syria. That's the exact region ISIS later took over. They saw it coming, funded it anyway, and let it happen. Flynn even called it a willful decision. So no one gets to play dumb now. They knew. Ask yourself, who benefits? And since both sides of the political spectrum are going along with this plan, are they all compromised? Rhetorical question. And we now know how. Jeffrey Epstein was on cam pleading the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments when asked under oath if he and Donald Trump socialized with underage girls. That silence says everything. I mean, he couldn't just say no. He had to plead the 5th. Because once you understand how the system protects predators, you realize why nobody in power ever stops the machine. They're all owned. Epstein wasn't just a monster, he was an asset, a walking insurance policy with dirt on every damn body at the top. Judges, presidents, media moguls, intelligence agents, they all played the same game. They basically run the whole empire through blackmail. So when military intelligence admits in 2012 that backing radical jihadists in Syria would lead to a jihadi stronghold and they fund it anyway, don't think it was an accident. It was a willful decision because chaos was the point. Nobody stopped it. Nobody wanted to stop it because the people pulling the strings already had the dirt to keep everyone in line. Kind of crazy how distractions pop up right on schedule. Whenever the Epstein stuff starts drawing more attention, Netanyahu's trial gets cut short so he can go bomb Syria for the Druze, in quotes. Yeah, Israeli superheroes incoming. Do you see what's happening here? Same news cycle, Israel drops a missile that kills kids at a Gaza waterline, and they got the nerve to respond with, oops, that was a technical error, end quote. Hostage families are begging outside Bibi's office while Washington wires him another $1 billion. Hunter Biden's laptop story quietly slides back into the evidence room, never to be heard from again. Yeah, remember that? Epstein's files now magically disappear. Roy Black, who legally tried to protect Epstein and his friends to make sure the right people never faced charges, turns up dead right as people start asking about it again. I'm sure that's just a coincidence too. Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer now says she answered every single DOJ question. No pleading the fifth, no dodging, full cooperation. Which makes you wonder, is she about to get Epstein next? And by that, I don't mean found hanging in a cell, okay? I mean walked out the back door to her own private island somewhere near Israel, as usual. Because every time the public starts drifting toward the client list or the child trafficking pipeline, the distractions hit us again and again. It's the same thing every time. New wars, plane crashes, celebrity deaths, even aliens, okay? Everything's on the table to get your eyes off of it. Whatever it takes to distract you so Congress keeps sending war money and the people in charge never have to deal with the child trafficking they're tied to. These aren't random events. They're planned distractions, stacked on top of a blackmail operation. And the same crowd yelling disinfo uses the chaos to silence speech, hide evidence, and keep the names buried. Once again, here comes the aliens. Every time more eyes are on this Epstein or Diddy stuff, and the body counts keep growing around these pedophiles. That's right, pedophiles. They press the button on Project Bluebeam. It's so obviously a distraction. At this point, it's comical. Remember the metallic orb I was talking about in Colombia? The one they swore was a alien orb from an alien mothership. MSM practically foaming at the mouth over this, swearing that aliens were here. Turns out it was just a drone with a dollar store string tied to it. Okay, just carrying it along the Colombian skies. A literal tinfoil hoax, people. And that psyop just so happened to drop around the time the Diddy house raids happened and the Epstein bombshells. Just a coincidence, right? But fast forward to now, same playbook, same week. Look at this, people. Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. Bondi also told President at the meeting that Justice decided to not release more Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography and the need to protect victims. You hearing that? They're admitting Trump's name is in the files, but we can't release them because, oh no, there's CP mixed in. Right. And right as that drops, the same damn day we get this, breaking. Congressman Frost claims the White House is about to drop proof of aliens. Oh my God. You gotta be fucking kidding me. That's what we need to focus on now, not Netanyahu's war crimes, not the pedophiles involving Democrats and Republicans and basically every damn government in the world, but Ghosts of Mars. Yeah, remember that movie? That's what we need to be focused on. That was one of my favorite movies as a kid too. And during all of this, all mainstream media is pushing aliens at the exact same time. I tweeted the distractions are getting comical, and that was an understatement, people. Aliens in Compton. Sounds like a hood sci-fi movie, right? But you're not going to believe this. Check this out.
Have aliens landed in Compton? That depends on who you ask. We want you to take a look at this video. We have it looped several times. It's gaining a lot of traction online, especially from paranormal bloggers and YouTubers. In an interview with the Daily Mail, the woman who captured the video, Jessica Ortiz, says her doorbell camera picked up something moving through her yard on June 5th around 1 a.m.
Can they please make a movie called Aliens in Compton? I would 100% watch that.
But the motion-censored cameras on the outside of her home didn't pick up anything. Speculation of what it ranges from, people carrying plastic bags to children, and some who say it's really an alien.
Why is the mainstream news covering this the exact same way? The same week, too. The timing is just gold, isn't it? I should just theme this whole show around coincidental distractions. And the timing is just perfect, and it's laughable. They want us to believe aliens traveled halfway across the universe just to land in Compton. Aliens were like, we need to meet with those gangbangers in Compton. We got a lot to learn from the Crips and Bloods. Okay? The same week, people, we get this too. Possibly hostile alien threat detected in unknown interstellar object. Okay? A shocking new study claims. Oh, really now? So not only are they 100% positive this object is alien, but a hostile alien threat. Let me guess, they're teaming up with Iran to build a nuke? Or maybe the gangbangers in Compton. I told you the distractions were getting comical, but I didn't expect South Park level comedy. Scientists are now warning this hostile alien threat could be slated to attack in November. Unbelievable. They know the exact date the aliens are going to attack. Yeah, that doesn't sound suspicious. Yeah, clearly a staged alien invasion is coming. They're so freaked out about the Epstein stuff, they might pull the trigger on Project Bluebeam, people. Seriously, fake alien spacecraft projections in the sky with direct energy weapons wiping out buildings, and they're gonna blame aliens soon. They really might do it too. I'm not joking either, because this is what the study says. The scientists say this. You guys trust the science, right? The same scientists that are now saying 13 billion doses against COVID were injected to save 2.5 million people. Yeah, they clearly pulled that number right out of their ass. Instead, it was millions dead over this death shot over a flu that they rebranded and called something else. More distractions here, of course. July 16, 2025, Netanyahu on the stand in his corruption trial in Israel. Testimony gets cut short because Israel suddenly needs to bomb Syria to protect the Druze. Same thing every time. Do you see what's happening? IDF hits Damascus and strikes targets tied to the new Islamist setup in the south that once again have taken everyone by surprise. Yeah, they didn't know that this president would be an extremist. I mean, how could they ever have predicted that? Suddenly, Netanyahu escaped the courtroom again as more missiles kill innocent people. Okay, do you see how it works? The trial is postponed because Israel has to go save the Christians and Druze. And how do you know the distraction dial is turning up for something bigger? Because even the ADL admits the noticing is becoming a problem. People aren't buying the narrative anymore, and now the system's panicking. July 16, Netanyahu's corruption trial gets conveniently cut short again as Syria gets bombed to protect the Druze and the Christians. Meanwhile, back in Britain, the regime is rolling out an elite internet police unit to scan your memes for anti-migrant sentiment, end quote. They're not even pretending anymore. It's called the National Internet Intelligence Investigations Team, and its whole job is to flag people online who say what everyone's thinking. Post a clip of a protest, you will be censored. Make a joke about immigration, jail time. They already locked up a woman for posting after the Southport attacks. So what happens when the heat turns up? Well, easy. They'll false flag the chaos. A false flag event that will be blamed on far right-wing extremists. Then they'll be able to throw half the country in prison for wrongthink. Doesn't matter if it's a meme, a post, or just noticing too loudly. This isn't about safety. This is about silencing dissent before the whole house of cards comes down. The free speech crackdown has gone full COVID era disinfo unit. Only this time, it's permanent and it will be over anti-Semitic posts, in quotes. And keep in mind, they've already said, questioning the official story is anti-Semitic, okay? From 9/11 to Epstein. Netanyahu's war crimes as well. They are losing control of the narrative, so they want to criminalize reality. Orwell's 1984 is officially coming to life. I mean, the demons in charge have a final, most essential command. They are now telling us to reject the evidence of our eyes and ears. The circus chooses its clown every time, okay? Then the noticing continues. ADL boss Jonathan Greenblatt rolls out new global attitude stats, and the headline takeaway gets boiled down to half the world hates us. That's right. After their new study, they're saying new statistics show half the world is anti-Semitic now. Can you believe that? Half the world? That's how they want to frame this? Gee, what could it be, John? Maybe running an open-air slaughterhouse in Gaza and, backing forced population transfers, pushing mass migration everywhere, lobbying against every Western parliament, and criminalizing criticism, throwing people in prison for criticizing what you're doing, and then pressuring banks to debank dissidents, and then building hate databases on anyone who disagrees with you. Yeah, that might not be winning the hearts of people, okay? But instead of changing behavior, they just crank up the criminalization dial. If you criticize the policy, you are hate. Criticize the bombing, you're an extremist. They don't address why so many people are furious. They want to police the fury. Look at Canada if you think I'm exaggerating. People are getting arrested for noticing. You can be jailed here if you even heckle pro-Israel media figures. It's insane. Charged again when they write about being charged. Government pushing an online harms bill that lets bureaucrats and tribunals go after free speech and posts. Mix that in with existing hate law penalties, and you're talking about real prison time here. Not just fines, not just a slap on the wrist. You're gonna sit in prison. Who's next to be arrested? Elmo? They just arrested the man behind the channel Son of Enos. After 7 months of surveillance, it says. What was the final trigger? A bank teller recognized him during a withdrawal and ratted him out. Cops pulled him over while he was driving home. They used his digital footprint to charge him with willful promotion of hatred and willful promotion of anti-Semitism. It's just constant in Canada, from Tamara Leach to Keenan here, and even a lawyer, Eva Chipiuk. That's right, this is a lawyer who simply questioned the Trudeau regime and his COVID narrative, criticized the trucker crackdown when they arrested the trucker convoy protesters, and she dared to speak at the National Citizens Inquiry. She cross-examined Trudeau, and that was enough to get her labeled an extremist. That's right, they wish they could have got her on anti-Semitism. They probably tried. They just couldn't find anything they could twist. But she disagreed with government policies during COVID, and that was enough to debank her. That's right, guys, debanked for questioning the official story. But the government still didn't like her. So RBC decided to debank her. They sent her a letter saying her account activity no longer fits their risk appetite, in quotes. Translation: political descendants are now financial liabilities. She's got until August to find a new bank. So just to connect the dots here, the guy they arrested got spotted at a bank. The woman they're trying to silence got erased by a bank. Well, it's safe to say we know who owns the banks, okay? And it ain't the people getting debanked. That being said, what I do here is expose government corruption, corporate censorship, and big pharma fraud, okay? I've been doing it for years. I question the official narrative because I believe in free speech and accountability. I criticize institutions, I criticize policies, and yes, I even criticize people too. That's not hate, that's thinking. That's noticing patterns. I have no hatred in my heart towards any group of people, and I don't condone any violence of any kind. And sometimes, yes, I will question things for the sake of argument, because that's how real discussions start, and that's how people actually learn. But to silence people and throw them in prison if they question the official story they're told is insane, even if it's a historical event that took place. Why would you throw people in prison for questioning it? If we're not able to question it, think about what the future can hold and the future laws that can be implemented. 20 years in the future, we gotta all obey the official story of COVID. If you don't believe that 100 million people died from COVID until the life-saving vaccine came through with, Bill Gates' vaccine, until he came through with his life-saving vaccine that saved the world. If you don't believe that exact story 20 years from now, you could be facing serious jail time, okay? That's what they could say here. That's where the slippery slope can lead us. That's why it should be always okay to question what we are told, questioning the official status quo, questioning the official story, because if we're not allowed to speak or question things, then what the hell do we have? Then we are not living in a free country. For example, Israel's leveling of Damascus live on TV, one of the oldest cities on earth. 11,000 years of people building and burying their dead there, getting pounded flat because a tribal convoy allegedly pointed the wrong way or an Iranian part showed up in a warehouse. I'm not even sure why they did this. They just bombed Damascus live on camera, captured it on the news. They do this time and time again. They plant the warlord, they put him in charge, and this person keeps it unstable. Then they bomb the instability they planted. You get it? Apparently, we're not allowed to notice it either, or you're going straight to prison. Sounds real innocent of those in charge, I must say. And while Americans argue about pronouns and NFL team names, Congress is signing off on more aid packages to countries that hate them. Yeah, all while being $38 trillion in debt. Matter of fact, it's so bad that the US Treasury Department is now accepting Venmo and PayPal payments from those who want to donate money to help reduce the debt. It's bad when the government is accepting donations to get them out of debt. Matter of fact, that money you send is probably going straight to Israel anyway. Please, people, please donate to the US Treasury. The country is in shambles, on verge of economic collapse. We desperately need your money so we can send another $500 million to Israel, $300 million to support Syria and Iraq. No joke. That's what Congress is doing right now. They're passing aid packages for this amount of money to countries that hate them. Yeah, that makes sense. Basically, more weapons for militant groups. Even if they've already switched sides 5 times, hundreds of millions of dollars to Kuwait and Jordan, $500 million to Taiwan, another bucket to reimburse partner states, they say, $15 million for AIDS in Africa so they can stamp the bill humanitarian in the press release. Yeah, and then the money goes straight to Bill Gates so we can vaccinate, in quotes, more African children. See how it's done, people? And to add it all up, you got a near $4 billion passed in Congress while the U.S. sits on $38 trillion in debt, and inflation eats your savings like a termite on crack. That's right, folks. Trump's plan to cut spending is more spending. We have seen this sequel all play out time and time again, okay? What's happening in Syria, we saw happen in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya. In Afghanistan in the 80s, Operation Cyclone. The CIA funded the Mujahideen to fight the Soviets. Years later, the world magically gets Al-Qaeda, which leads to a forever war that keeps the DICs rich, of course. Fast forward, and the anti-war Orange Messiah comes in, screaming Obama armed jihadists. That's right, remember in 2017? Trump allegedly shut down this program here of funding rebel groups. People praised Trump for this, but then he kept the exact Pentagon pipeline going to fund those same jihadi groups for years after. It's all a show, people. Keeps US boots and air cover in the same exact locations. So no, Trump is not the hero. The plan never changed. The White House just got an orange facelift. And get this, Israeli National Security Minister Ben Gvir responded to France's recognition of Palestine by urging the transfer of Palestinians to Europe. We recognize France as a Palestinian state, he says. Can you believe that? The nerve of these demons, right? France will be the new Palestine, apparently. So the idea that they are purposely trying to destabilize the Middle East in order to flood Western nations with immigrants isn't sounding too far-fetched now, huh? And get this, it turns out Epstein had a line, and Trump crossed it. You're not going to believe this. According to his own brother, Mark, Epstein told him back in 2004 that he walked away from Trump because, and I quote, he's a crook. Let that sink in too. Epstein said, Trump is too crooked for Epstein. This directly contradicts Trump's claim that he was the one that cut ties here, as if Trump was the one that suddenly was too righteous for the pedo network. No, apparently it was the other way around. And this didn't just come from some tabloid. Mark says Epstein sent him a clip of a 16-hour interview, never aired, filmed by none other than Steve Bannon. Yeah, that's Steve Bannon, the same guy who tried to help Epstein clean up his image in 2019. So while Trump was out here posing as the savior of the children, the hammer of justice, Epstein was privately telling his own brother the guy was radioactive. And that's saying something, because when the child trafficker thinks you're bad news, maybe your swamp is too swampy for the swampiest swamp creatures. And it turns out Trump has been in panic mode since May, right after the DOJ quietly let him know his name showed up in the Epstein files. That wasn't some rumor off Telegram, okay? Elon Musk even said it months ago. He leaked the truth. Trump's in the stash, okay? And now we've got official confirmation. The White House just told Reuters they're not denying that Trump's name comes up repeatedly in the Epstein files. So when a reporter finally asks the question, he doesn't explain. Trump just blows up. Now we know why. He called it bullshit. Trump started attacking his own base over this and says he doesn't even want their support anymore. That's not confidence. That's someone trying to bury a landmine with his own bare hands. And his excuse? We have more important things to talk about. Oh, like the conveniently timed storm that just exploded over Texas, right as Epstein headlines started bubbling again. Because here's the kicker. NOAA and DARPA have already admitted to geoengineering programs like Rainmaker, where they're actively cloud seeding that exact region. They literally announced it. It's not a conspiracy. There was even a press release on it. They're chemically tweaking the skies while the media calls it a natural disaster increased because of human-induced climate change. And Trump pretends it's just weather. Then like clockwork, he shifts into full gaslight mode. He starts guilt tripping his own base. He said, if you're asking questions, you're weak. I don't want your support, end quote. A global child trafficking and blackmail ring operated by Epstein with help from Mossad suddenly becomes a Democrat hoax. That's the best spin they've got. The same flight logs that read like a bipartisan private jet orgy are now fake news because Trump said so. Please. Meanwhile, Speaker Mike Johnson is floating the idea of shutting down Congress until September just so they can avoid a vote on releasing the Epstein files. It's not about summer recess, it's about running out the clock. He's trying to stall it. The longer they stall, the more likely this gets buried and sealed in the folders right alongside Hunter Biden's laptop. They're trying to hold off until that alien invasion the scientists say is coming in November. Isn't that funny? And right on cue, a federal judge in Florida shuts down the DOJ's request to unseal Epstein's original grand jury transcripts from 2005 and 2007. Says she's bound by appellate rulings, even though the DOJ itself admitted the usual secrecy rules don't even apply anymore. New York courts might still pry open a few pages, but for now, Florida slammed the vault on everybody's face. You're not gonna see anything. Right as Trump tells Pam Bondi to release everything, acting like he's got nothing to hide, and then we're told there is no files at all. And just as the Epstein stuff starts getting talked about, once again, distraction, they throw a smoke bomb in your face again. Tulsi Gabbard, suddenly acting like director of national intelligence, walks out and lets people know Obama is a criminal. That's right. The entire Russiagate setup, they faked the intel. Surprise, surprise. Sold the lie. Weaponized the intel agencies to target Trump before he took office. Theater, people. Why? Because the timing is highly suspect once again. This report sat on their desk since 2020, and now suddenly it's urgent national news. Right when Trump's name shows up in the Epstein files, right when he has a meltdown on stage and starts begging influencers not to talk about the list. This is the funniest distraction I've ever seen. This is truly WWE, all theater. Even Trump is now posting AI videos of Obama getting arrested, screaming treason, calling for arrests like he's reading off a Q-tard script. The same time, he erases the Epstein files after Pam Bondi told him he was in them. The media pivots like it was all choreographed because, well, it is. Suddenly the big scandal isn't the global sex trafficking ring protected by a Mossad agent. Nope, it's a 5-year-old memo from the Obama years, and they're calling it the biggest political scandal in modern US history. Really? That's the one? And for the record, Obama is absolutely a corrupt scumbag, don't get it twisted. Definitely no halo above his head. This is the same guy who handed hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayers' funds to Pearson while in office, only to walk away later with a $65 million book deal from a Pearson-connected imprint. If that looks familiar, it's because it's the exact same scheme we saw with FTX. What got that little nerdy CEO kid in prison, Obama did the same. wash government contracts through friendly corporations, then get thanked with personal payouts later. Sounds like textbook money laundering, right? They've been robbing the public blind for hundreds of years. Notice it and go to prison. You understand? If you owe $200 in taxes, they'll go to the edge of the earth to find that ass. But they'll steal hundreds of millions of dollars and threaten you with jail time if you expose any of it. And for all the Q-tards out there that thought Barack Obama would end up in handcuffs, come here and collect your award. You know what you get, people. You get the Ultimate Fell For It Again award. That's right, another one to add to your Q-tarded trophy collection. Trump then came out saying Obama won't be prosecuted because he probably has immunity, in quotes, and the former president owes him big. Yeah, well, that was quick, used as obvious hopium and a distraction for the sheeples, as we all knew it was. Biggest corruption in U.S. history, and now they'll never talk about it again. And while they keep everyone distracted with declassified breadcrumbs here, here's what's actually happening. The DOJ quietly charges a guy for threatening people named in the Epstein files, the same list they keep claiming doesn't exist. That's where we're at now. They deny it exists, then punish anyone who acts like it does. And when the smoke starts clearing, they just crank the chaos back up, okay? New COVID strain, manufactured storm, flooding half a state, Tulsi with another binder, Hillary Clinton being arrested rumors, and Obama arrested rumors, just total nonsense, and even aliens, just to keep everyone too disoriented to ask who flew on those planes or filmed those hallway cameras, edited that footage. And if the misdirection wasn't obvious enough, look at who Trump's endorsing during all this. In Canada, Mark Carney, the WEF bred central banker who pushes programmable money, digital IDs, and forced vaccinations, carbon credit scores as well. A guy who shows up smiling next to Ghislaine Maxwell. And not just one photo either. It's like they're really cool with each other. They clearly knew each other, and this is who Trump was endorsing as the next Prime Minister of Canada. Isn't that funny? That's not a coincidence, okay? That's a signal. It's like Carney had the perfect resume, you know what I mean? It's like a globalist instruction manual. You gotta be blackmailed by the Epstein team, and Trump will love you. He doesn't just talk Davos. This dude right here is Davos. And his photo shoots with Epstein's Madame weren't snapped in secret. They flaunt this stuff. It's the same network running the same game. Finance control on one end, blackmail leverage on the other. And they want people to keep chasing Obama's memo like it's going to change anything. Meanwhile, the real monsters are still writing policy, laundering influence, and disappearing evidence while the media claps. You couldn't script this much misdirection unless your goal was to keep the entire population looking the wrong way on purpose. And behind the scenes, Trump's crew is ringing up conservative influencers demanding they stop talking about it. They're giving them loyalty checks. They're asking them to fall in line and don't look behind the curtain. Just throw the whole Epstein stuff out. Stop talking about it. Then the DOJ hits a random guy with charges for threatening names on the Epstein list. The same list they claim doesn't exist. That's where we're at, prosecuting people over imaginary documents while telling the public there's nothing to see. It's not even 5D chess anymore. It's just deep state brainwashing. And the only rule is if it makes you look behind the curtain, crank up the distractions. And now look who pops up to tell us the real truth about it all. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. He gets on X and tweets this. Mossad, having reported directly to me, he can tell us with 100% certainty, okay? Epstein never worked for Mossad. Never worked for Israel. Total lie, he says. Tucker Carlson and online personalities just make things up because it's Israel. We won't take it anymore. Right. Like, bro, you were seen visiting Epstein dozens of times after Epstein was convicted as a pedophile. Okay? Flying over 30 times in his private jet to his little island. Mossad showed up to Maxwell's funeral, Ghislaine's father and good friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Israel even gave Maxwell a hero's farewell for all his good work. Okay? The fact that this former Israeli president came out saying 100% certain Epstein never touched Mossad. Yeah, because a former Israeli prime minister is definitely trustworthy in all of this. We can believe what he says. What's crazy is at least 4 Israeli prime ministers circled this Epstein crew post-conviction. So after he was convicted with all this stuff, they kept hanging out with him over and over again, and we have thousands of photos of it. Let's talk about this nonsense here that Epstein had nothing to do with Mossad. Every time an Israeli PM says that, more photos and more flight logs just magically pop up. We've already got at least 4 Israeli prime ministers linked to Epstein after his conviction. Let that sink in. We're supposed to believe Mossad, who brags about assassinating Iranian generals across different time zones, somehow missed a serial sex trafficker hanging around their donors? Give me a break. They really think you're dumb. The intelligence world runs on freelancers so they can deny everything. So he's not directly on the payroll and it doesn't say Mossad above his name on his paychecks, obviously. This is why they do these things. That's what Robert Maxwell did. And when he mysteriously fell off a boat, Israel gave him a full state funeral. His daughter Ghislaine jumped right into Epstein's setup. Epstein's power came straight from Lex Wessner, who handed him power of attorney, trust funds, jets, a mansion, and a pipeline to Victoria's Secret girls. The British press saw it decades ago. A 1992 report tied Epstein to Mossad. By 2000, tabloids were already saying Epstein was manipulating Prince Andrew, hinting at CIA and Mossad overlap. Stephen Hoffenberg ran a Ponzi scheme with Epstein and later claimed Epstein was working for Mossad. Ari Ben-Menashe, former Israeli intel, said the same. Jane Doe said Epstein bragged he was Mossad. Okay, US whistleblowers said it too. When the heat came up, Epstein fled to Israel, and instead of laying low, he was touring military bases. Yeah, totally normal, right? He also invested in Carbine, an Israeli surveillance company linked to Unit 8200, which is Israeli NSA, with Ehud Barak and Peter Thiel. Barak wasn't just a prime minister, he ran Israel's top special forces intel unit. He met Epstein dozens of times, was photographed sneaking into Epstein's NYC mansion in 2016 while young girls went inside, and claimed he never saw any girls. Yeah, okay, just a fan of camo masks indoors. His name's in the emails too, people. Epstein was linking financiers to Netanyahu. Add that to the Clinton White House logs. 17 visits, young girls with him every time, and still no media outrage, no charges. The same donor group funding Israel, Mega Group, Wexner, Bronfman, etc., was once so deep into US intel circles that even the FBI thought Mega was a spy code name. Isn't that funny? It was called Mega. Sounding like MAGA, but sure, no intelligence angle, right? I'm going to call it what it is, okay? He was the blackmail banker, the surveillance bridge between donors, spies, and Israeli officials. This is why they scream conspiracy, because if this story blows up, the sex tapes get tied to state actors. Putin literally said Men in Black run America. The president thinks he's in charge until, the real shot callers show up and shut him down. Trump's boys are building the Mark of the Beast system. So it's the Men in Black introducing the Mark of the Beast. MIB bringing in the MOB. Neuralizers are used to wipe memories clean, okay? Pam Bondi got the memory eraser thing on you. Maybe that's what the vaccine was. People having brain fog, memory gaps, weird neurological issues, and we're just supposed to ignore it. Maybe that's why Trump was begging his base to take it. He called himself the father of the vaccine. Maybe that was the point. He wanted to give you brain damage so you forget about the Epstein stuff. Take the shot, forget the plot, okay? Another very trustworthy right-hand man of Trump right here, Howard Lutnick, Cantor Fitzgerald boss, and coincidentally, Epstein's neighbor in Manhattan. And get this, Lutnick only survived on 9/11 because he took his kid to school that morning. First time he ever did it, he said. While 658 of his people died up in that tower. Yeah, nothing suspicious at all. Sounding like a Larry Silverstein type of day. Just happened to be really lucky that day, I'm guessing. And every September, Lutnick is on camera crying, reading out all the names, rebuilding. which I'm not even going to start here about that, but they never talk about the Epstein overlap. No one is talking about that. Lutnick, a neighbor of Epstein, same real estate orbit, okay? Same billionaire donors, all in the swamp. Not a single person brings up Lutnick's connection to Epstein. They just cut that part out, coincidentally. This is what drain the swamp really meant under Trump and the crew before him. It didn't drain, it privatized, okay? They're privatizing the swamp. When you're high enough in the donor food chain, the scrutiny just stops. You get permanent Teflon. Red hat, blue hat, doesn't matter, people. This is one nation under blackmail. This is absolutely treasonous stuff. Every time someone asks about Epstein, aliens pop up. Another plane crash, just endless. And the silence itself tells us all we need to know. Accountability dies when the neuralizer is pulled out, okay? Epstein wasn't just some creep who got rich. He was running a Mossad blackmail operation, according to a former Israeli intelligence officer. Ghislaine Maxwell brought him in. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was Mossad too, buried with donors, eulogized by Shimon Peres. That same Peres introduced Epstein to Ehud Barak, who ended up making regular visits to Epstein's Manhattan apartment, partnered with him in a tech firm packed with ex-Israeli intel, and got $2 million from Wexner's foundation for undisclosed research. Wexner gave Epstein the $77 million townhouse he used to run his operation. He was also his only known client and one of the founders of the Mega Group, an invite-only circle of ultra-wealthy Zionist billionaires funding Israeli influence worldwide. And Wexner's partner was Charles Bronfman, who also had business ties to Robert Maxwell. Ronald Lauder, another mega member, runs the World Jewish Congress and pours money into Netanyahu's Likud party. Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer and longtime friend, isn't just a head Zionist figure. He literally wrote the case for Israel and was floated as a possible ICJ rep for them. And according to Maria Farmer, the first victim to report Epstein, the whole network was controlled by Jewish supremacists who racially abused her, with the mega group running the show behind the scenes. None of this was random. It was a state-backed operation, hiding behind private wealth built to compromise and control, and the people in charge have made sure it stays buried. So what are they setting the stage for here? When more talk is on this Epstein stuff, and that conversation starts leaking into the normie space, you do not argue the facts, you bury it under more global emergencies. Syria's heating up. Israel's trial circus blends with missile strikes. ADL's got a report queued saying half the world hates Jews. Perfect cover for global speech bans, okay? Canada's already arresting people for noticing. Cue a digital safety panic. Maybe toss in a cyber attack. Maybe a fake UFO hearing. Maybe a lab leak scare, just anything big enough to classify the evidence and make questions illegal. Label it hate, disinfo, national security, the same playbook every time. They want to lock the files away and gag the witnesses. Ban anyone asking who flew on that plane. And here's the script they actually want us to believe. This is how you know they really think people are stupid or brain damaged enough from the vaccine to not really question any of it. Epstein didn't really traffic kids, just ignore his arrest. There is no client list, ignore the AG who said she had names. He totally killed himself. Ignore the dead cameras, missing footage, missing minute of footage. Nobody important knew him. Ignore the flight logs, the island, the photos, And above all, stop asking questions. It's old news. Move on. That's the bedtime story, okay? Meanwhile, even Trump's own kid was yelling to release the list. Ask why they won't. The answer is obvious. Governments don't cover for pedo blackmail unless they're owned by it. Trump on his Miss Teen pageants. I'll go backstage before a show and everyone is getting dressed. No man is anywhere. They're standing there with no clothes. I sort of get away with things like that. Oh, really now? Yeah. Let me guess, it's just pedophile 5D chess somehow? There's a reason why this stuff is extremely serious and we should not take it lightly. Okay, we should never forget about it because I truly believe in those files, there's going to be sections that lead us down other rabbit holes that really expose a lot of truly satanic activities taking place in a lot of these governments around the world. Okay. And I don't think they want that to be exposed. Matter of fact, they will do everything in their power to prevent us from asking questions, and they need us distracted. You know, the Epstein case exposes a vile child trafficking network, and we can't ignore it. It's pure evil, destroying kids' lives for profit. They're brushing it off like Trump has. It really tells you exactly who he is. Why would you dismiss such a horrific crime? This $150 billion industry grabs 8 million kids a year for sex trafficking, organ harvesting, and a shadowy adrenochrome trade, where kids' blood supposedly sells for $77,000 a barrel. Insiders like former CIA and Marines claim a group called the Committee of 300, possibly involving a former Secretary of State, runs this global racket, trafficking 2 million kids for sex and 2 million for organs. In Houston, a Honduran man kidnapped a Chinese woman, lured from New York with a fake job, held her without food or water, and assaulted her. It really makes you wonder why. Was it just some creepy pedo that did this on his own, or is it part of a larger ring? Maybe even using women to supply kids for this nightmare, holding them against their will and forcing them to give birth. Open borders keep it going, letting victims slip through for cheap labor and cash. Whistleblowers fear they'll be silenced. Beyond Epstein's island, there's a network of elite pedophiles, okay? And laptops and files exposing all of this. Many are saying even Hunter Biden's laptop goes into detail about this thing called Ambrosia. And this is a Peter Thiel-funded program, an adrenochrome scheme. This is a battle against darkness, and we need to fight to protect these kids. Ambrosia was Peter Thiel's company. It harvested blood from the young to give to the wealthy. Sounds crazy, but it is real, Isaac's Army says on X. This is the kind of vampire we are dealing with. Thiel is one of the founders of Palantir, the AI company that's about to keep tabs on all of us. You know, that was one of my theories as to why they're trying to ban flights. They're trying to increase the surveillance. I truly believe they're involved in some real satanic stuff, and they need digital IDs soon and CBDCs to control people, to prevent you from finding them and, doing the damn thing. There's a reason for this. They're going crazy right now because I truly believe they're involved in some satanic activities, some Bohemian Grove type stuff. Isn't that crazy? The Bohemian Grove stuff leaked decades ago and people just thought, they just shrugged their shoulders and moved on. No, the elite people in our government are literally worshiping Malak, okay? That's kind of insane. Another crazy thing here is Amber Rose was in full support of Trump. Amber Rose equals Ambrosia. Isn't that funny? Also known as adrenochrome. But remember the pattern here. Create the chaos, declare emergency, hide the evidence in the emergency, arrest anyone who asks where it went, and rinse and repeat, okay? Now back to Elmo. You're not gonna believe this, okay? First Mel Gibson, Kanye West, then Grok, and now Elmo. That's right, Sesame Street went full-on anti-Semitic. Elmo is now locked up in Canadian prison too, apparently. Elmo got hacked, and not in a cute Elmo spilled the juice on the keyboard kind of way. No, his official X account lit up with anti-Semitic racist posts calling for violence and yelling to release the Epstein files, which is insane when you remember this is the same red puppet who went viral just for asking people how they were doing. Sesame Workshop said an unknown hacker briefly grabbed the account, called the post disgusting, wiped them, and locked things down. But screenshots are everywhere now, and the Anti-Defamation League jumped in, calling it appalling and tying it to a broader surge of anti-Jewish hate. They logged more than 9,000 US incidents in 2024 after the Gaza war blew open, and the timing is just rich because the same week Elon Musk's Grok chatbot started praising Hitler and becoming full-blown anti-Semitic, and then like a week later, Elmo is hacked, and then non-stop tweets on the account that are full-blown anti-Semitic, calling for violence against Jews. It's absolutely insane. And this account had 650,000 followers too. Sesame Street came out saying, you know what, sorry everyone, Elmo was hacked. Sorry folks, it was a technical error. The same line Israel used after bombing a water line and killing kids in Gaza? Speaking of, in central Gaza, they just did exactly that. Strike lands dozens of meters off target at a water collection point in Nazareth. Local hospital counted 10 bodies from that hit, 6 of them kids who were lined up with jugs to get water. Total kills across Gaza that day, at least 32. War death toll now past 58,000 after 21 months. Another strike nails people just walking a street in Gaza City. 11 more dead, about 30 hurt. Dr. Ahmed Kandil on his way to a hospital gets killed. In Zaweda, a home blows up, 9 gone, 2 women, 3 kids in the count. Israel says it hit more than 150 targets in 24 hours. And they said Hamas is hiding in civilian homes, so blame them. Gaza health numbers say women and kids are more than half the dead. Same-day Israeli hostage families are outside Netanyahu's office begging for a deal to stop the war and get the last 50 hostages back. Israel says no end till Hamas surrenders and leaves. Hamas says end the war, pull out. We hand over everyone, including about 20 hostages said to still be alive. West Bank lit too. Palestinian American named Saifullah Masalet beaten dead by settlers on family land. Even his friend was shot. Bodies paraded under flags. Israeli Energy Minister Eli Cohen on TV saying Gaza should stay an island of ruins for decades. So when the IDF says technical error after munitions turn a water line into a child grave, you see why people are starting to get angry and questioning what they're told? And no wonder they needed every Western politician blackmailed through Epstein honeypots, because they want everyone in power to look the other way while Israel commits a genocide. Nobody in Congress is going to pay attention when 6 kids get blown up waiting in a water line, because the people in Congress are compromised and told to look the other way. So they bomb a church in Syria. Oops, technical error, they say. They bomb a bread line, water line, killing kids. Oops, another technical error, they say. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Elmo gets hacked, and Sesame Street says it's a technical error too. But the craziest part about the Elmo stuff is a bunch of people, including some very mad Jewish people, are yelling at actual Elmo. That's right, I'm seeing replies to Elmo's tweets, and it's like, do they understand Elmo was hacked? They're acting like the plush doll actually logged in and started typing anti-Semitic kill rants, and then screaming, release the Epstein files. Elmo's little fuzzy hands slamming against the keyboard. Like, this is actually what they believed happened. Hours later, Elmo tweets, thank you for being kind to Elmo and all the people in your neighborhood. Elmo loves you. Immediately, this guy Ronnie Slavis swings in with a meltdown here. Resign, Elmo. You posted the most vile hate speech, saying what you did about Jews is Nazi-style rhetoric. You should be out of a job, far away from anything that has to do with children. Like, dude, you just went off on an actual puppet. If you want answers, talk to Sesame Street's security team, okay? X's breach logs and maybe whoever's sitting on the Epstein files the hacker was shouting about. Not a plush 3-year-old doll who speaks in third person. I mean, he really just unloaded on a Muppet here. Carrying on here, Bozo of the Week award goes to, drum roll please, Ben Shapiro again, obviously. Who else would it go to? I mean, repeat offender here on Bozo of the Week. Ben said this, no one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem. That's right, you exist to work and pay taxes and interest so that Israel can take over the world, okay? You dumb goyim. Think you can just not work? Get back to work, you lazy bums, shouts Ben Shapiro at a retirement home. I mean, think about it. If too many Americans retire, how can the U.S. afford to support Israel? After all, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what your country can do for Israel, says Ben Shapiro. That's right. Fun fact, Ben Shapiro told Elmo he's never allowed to retire. That's why Elmo went off on Jews. Elmo was like, you mean I gotta work on Sesame Street forever just to fund the genocide in Gaza? Screw you, Ben. Elmo just noticing things, Tucker. Do you notice things like Elmo? You know what Trump is doing right now? He's handing out culture war candy to make people feel like he's fighting for them while the big stuff never gets touched. Remember when he said the Epstein case wasn't important? Time to move on. But hey, let's change the name of the Redskins football team. That's a top priority, right? Yeah, this is real 5D chess, people. This is what they mean by 5D chess. Don't fall for it. Why are we talking about the Epstein stuff? We need to talk about more important things, like changing a football team's name. They made the left go so insane that now anyone who says maybe kids shouldn't be reading gay porn in school gets called a hero. Do you see what's happening? Trump plays into this perfectly, offering little fake wins that his own deep state set up in the first place. Look at Javier Milei in Argentina, same exact script. He comes in screaming anti-globalist, anti-communist, says climate change is a scam, bashes the LGBT agenda, all that noise, and then boom, he's fully approved by the Zionist machine, installs a pre-crime system like something out of Minority Report, and now he's privatizing water. Didn't the Nestle CEO say that? The red-eyed cyborg? So now Javier Milei is on the same side as a Nestle CEO. Not just that, but Israel's state-owned water company, Mekarot, accused of war crimes in Palestine, is first in line to buy it up. They've already made secret deals with 12 provinces, all while Milei fires tens of thousands of workers, shuts down ministries, removes price controls, and poverty explodes. But don't worry, he flew to Israel to hug it out with his dear friend Netanyahu. That's the playbook, folks. Loud culture war gimmicks on the surface and total elite pedophile control underneath. They give you your heroes that provide you little bits of wins that ain't shit in the grand scheme of things. This is what you call culture war goy slop. Okay, eat it right up. And like I said, coincidences just keep piling up. Roy Black just died. He was Epstein's lawyer when the Palm Beach case got gutted. He sat in a room with Palm Beach State Attorney Barry Krischer, let a serial underage rapist plead down to garbage charges. He helped hammer out the 2008 non-prosecution agreement that didn't just soften the hit, it walled off potential co-conspirators. That's the part people forget, the shield. Later, a federal judge says victims were never properly consulted. Crime Victims' Rights Act violated. So who did that secret deal really protect? Roy Black would know. Now Roy is gone. Bad timing if you're trying to close the book. And now we hear Ghislaine Maxwell is ready to confess, ready to spill the beans on everything Epstein did. And she allegedly just named 100 people tied to him. According to new DOJ reports, that's what she did. She gave him 100 names. Oh, really now? Where was all this during her actual arrest? The FBI didn't question her? Didn't ask for a single name? Just tossed her in prison for trafficking minors to nobody? But now suddenly, she's got all the answers, huh? And she just happened to return to prison with a white box after meeting with the DOJ? What's in that box, Ghislaine? What's in the damn box? Let me guess, documents or instructions? Maybe they told her to personally go through the files and remove Trump's name before things get out of hand. Because remember, Trump's team just said the list doesn't even exist. Democrat hoax, Trump said. And now here's the DOJ basically confirming it's real and using Ghislaine in the cleanup assignment. There are two theories as to what's going on here. The first theory is they're using her to cover for Trump, scrub the files, erase his name from them, and bury the evidence. And Ghislaine is now asking for a pardon from Donald J. Trump. And this is the second theory. This is a more diabolical 5D chess theory, okay? People say she's about to say Trump was in the files and absolutely convict him and totally snitch on everything he's done. And it's all by design as well. He was Epstein's good buddy all along. That clears the way for J.D. Vance to become president. Peter Thiel's golden boy, okay? Palantir's poster boy. and the full-on beast system rolls out. Not conspiracy either, okay? Peter Thiel literally calls it the end of politics and the beginning of control. So either Ghislaine's being used to protect Trump or to destroy him as part of the next stage. Either way, the message is the same. The original investigation was a total joke. You mean to tell me Ghislaine was arrested years back, involved in an international child trafficking ring, and the FBI didn't even question her? Didn't ask for any names? This is unreal. The truth is, if Trump ends up pardoning Ghislaine, it's not just a slap in the face to all of us waiting for justice, it's the final humiliation ritual. That would be like the demons in charge telling us they own the system, they own the courts, and there's not a damn thing anyone is going to do about it. So here we go, folks. Now we find out Ghislaine met with the DOJ for 2 days, talked for 9 hours, and got limited immunity, and supposedly named around 100 people. They're calling it proffer immunity, meaning she can talk about it without it being used against her. Yeah, sounds totally normal. Convicted sex trafficker meeting privately with the deputy attorney general while appealing her sentence. Her lawyer says she didn't hold anything back and that there were no promises, end quote. Just her volunteering the truth out of the kindness of her own heart. Right. And guess who's in the middle of all of this? Todd Blanche, Trump's old personal lawyer, Maxwell's team, says they haven't asked Trump for a pardon yet, but they're open to it. Trump's already dodging questions, calling it a sensitive situation, praising Blanche as a great lawyer and refusing to rule out clemency. Even victims are speaking out, asking why this is all happening behind closed doors while the people she trafficked girls to are still protected. And in the middle of all of this, DOJ says they won't release any more Epstein files despite promising they would. So now the woman who trafficked minors to no one gets immunity, private meetings, and maybe even a pardon. And all of this while Trump gaslights all of his supporters, acting like there is no list, there are no files. This is absolute insanity, folks. So tying it all together, so let's call it what it is. Trump buried the Epstein files, and now his version of damage control is giving immunity to Ghislaine Maxwell while pretending he doesn't know what's going on. Meanwhile, the media is flooding us with UFO talk, alien psyops, trying to cover up Israel's war crimes that the Trump administration fully backs. No matter how many war crimes stack up, the media is going to talk about aliens. Every distraction is perfectly timed, from aliens, cyber attacks, and even new viruses popping up that could kill everyone. Yeah, endless stories about that. Anything to drown out the truth, because when you line it all up, Ghislaine's sudden cooperation, Trump dodging important questions, Blanche in the middle of it, and the DOJ sealing files, it's crystal clear. This isn't about justice. It's about cover-up to protect the same sick power structure that's been running the show all along. And I'm going to leave it right there. This is getting long and my throat is feeling real messed up. I'm a little under the weather right here, so I do apologize if I'm sounding a little bit off. But I got to leave it right there. This is getting long. If you do want to support this channel, if you like what you see here, it's greatly appreciated. You hit those links in the description for ways to support. Please consider hitting the links and supporting this channel. No big name sponsors here, no ads. This is fully supported by the people and all done by myself. So if you appreciate the effort that goes into this, and if you want to see this show keep going, click those links in the description for ways to support. Until next week, folks, until next time, this is Steve Eyes. You're on the Eyes Is Watching channel, signing off.